Our practice is getting to the root of suffering. Where does hatred come from? Hey everyone, it's Jason, and I'm here answering your questions about Zen, meditation, your practice life, any kind of question. Today's question is about hatred. And instead of just reading the question, I feel like I need to read the message that I received to put it all into context. So this is what I received. I feel hatred towards a certain religious group in my society. This group oppresses women also in various ways, inspiring the act of violence and terrorism, and always creates problems for the development of this nation. My question is, how to deal with hatred in my heart towards this certain religious group? I understand impermanence and non-self. I understand this group has also temporary existence. They have no solid entity, and their existence is interdependent with my existence also. I have tried also to be aware of the hatred and touch this hatred with some compassion. But so far, the hatred is still strong and creates a certain suffering in my mind. We know from our own experience by looking around this world that hatred only causes suffering. Even in the Buddhist teaching, he talked about the three poisons: hatred, ignorance, and greed. These three things, if we fuel them, hold on to them, give them life, keep them alive, that the suffering just goes around and around and around, and there's no way out. I think it's important to understand about impermanence, being aware of hatred, understanding about the three poisons. But the understanding itself, or just by itself, is not enough. We must really investigate the source of this hatred. A Dharma friend once told me a story about a grandfather who was talking to his two grandchildren. And he was saying that there was two wolves living inside of his own mind. One wolf was the wolf of love, compassion, generosity, understanding, openness, clarity. And this other wolf was the wolf of ignorance, hatred, greed, power, control. And he said that these two wolves inside of my mind are fighting each other. And he said, not only do I have this fight inside of me, but many people in this world have this fight inside of themselves. So one of the grandchildren asked this grandfather, which one of these wolves will win this fight? And the grandfather said, it's the one that you feed. So I thought this was a good story to show that if we fuel anger, hatred, ignorance, greed, all of these things, it becomes very big. If we feed love, compassion, clarity, generosity, it also becomes very big. And there are some Buddhist practices that really emphasize putting energy into loving kindness. There's many different practices you can do to transform hatred into loving kindness. Zen has a little bit of a different approach. There's a saying in Zen, forget about the branches, get to the root. So if you look at a tree, there are many roots that go far and deep into the ground, keeping this tree alive. If you cut these roots, the tree can no longer survive. So the same way, our practice is getting to the root of suffering. Where does hatred come from? Feelings. Where do feelings come from? Thoughts. Where do thoughts come from? Mind. Where does mind come from? Consciousness. Where does consciousness come from? Eventually, we unveil all of these layers and we return to the place of not knowing. We call it a don't know mind. I was looking at this word enlightenment and thought about light. Like imagine that it's dark and you turned on a light and you actually can see everything that was already there. So it's in the same way when we return to our enlightened nature or don't know mind, we start to see things that we didn't see before. So when we have hatred for other people and we investigate this hatred, we investigate ourselves, have this experience of our enlightened nature, then when we see other people, we see suffering. We see suffering in ourselves, and we can see the suffering in others. One trap I think people fall into is like we have this experience of our enlightened nature, and then we just don't do anything in this world. So it's not about that. Sometimes I call this a sickness, a Zen sickness or a Bodhisattva sickness. Some people call it spiritual bypassing, like everything's okay, everything is one, everything is enlightenment. This kind of thinking really causes more suffering or adds more suffering to this world. So it doesn't mean that we don't do anything. It just means that our view is more wide and we can see that there are a lot more possibilities. If we're feeling our hatred, our ignorance, whatever it is, if we're feeling that, our view becomes very narrow and there's very little possibilities to do anything. In fact, a lot of the times we just feel stuck and we get self-absorbed in all of this hatred. We will always experience anger, fear, and sadness, but we don't have to feel them, because if we do, all of these things will control us and we will spin around and around and around in this wheel of suffering. So all we have to do is feel this moment. This will shine a light in this moment so the truth is revealed. And from there, we can respond in a way that can truly help this world. Those are my thoughts for the day. Let me know in the comments if this video was helpful. And if you have a question about Zen, meditation, your practice, life, any kind of question, you can put it down below, or you can just email me, jason@jasonquinnzen.com. All right, everyone. I hope you're having a clear day, and I will see you very soon.